My cat's being a little bitch, so having fun right now. Holy shit, Ray. 4 a.m. Go back to bed. Do you want to come on later on? I'm gonna try to feed this dude with little kibbles from time to time. We'll see. I even prepared slides, but I can't like actually check what they look like because I had ChatGPT render them for me. So we'll see. How's my camera? It's a little bit tricky because my green screen doesn't go all the way. Actually, this green screen is maybe the best thing I bought lately. There we go. Move a little bit over there. Because then I can... do this like crazy scenes. So there we go. We'll actually start right now. This is, of course, all these loading screens that I do are built in Claude. I mean, I say of course. But we'll also be using DeepWiki. So I've got like a sequence of tools that I want to walk through. And I think I had some slides. So anyway, this is one of the books I generated this morning. We'll be looking at that. I generated a nice cover for it. I really like just building these books as I need them. And we will be looking also at a bunch of, let me see, where did I do this? Because this is something I did yesterday. This is something I did yesterday. I did generate slides this morning. Oh, there we go. And so it ran some slides and then we can download them, but we can't download them again. So welcome to the stream. I'll be generating videos, adding captions, hopefully getting there. And then I'll explain a little bit. I don't know if an MCP really makes sense. At first, I wanted to build it with an MCP. And as I was thinking this morning, going through my printouts of these books that I generated, right? Like when I do deep research, I print it out in the morning. And let me Also, while looking at one of the Blender MCPs to send remote code, I realized that this is actually not even that important, since we'll be probably vibe coding some Python and then just running it in Blender. We'll be building it live, right? We'll be building different primitives as we go up. I have a book for that as well, which is called the Blender Video Editing for Dummies using Python. The very specific book, you know. And we'll be then diving into maybe hopefully some more experimental advanced things, but we'll also be exploring Cursor 0.5 and maybe some models. I'll try to not get on too many tangents. But with that said, let's dive in. Let's, what the fuck is that? Let's dive in. So we have Cursor has apparently released a new version. I wonder if it's going to be out for Linux. That's the one thing that I really wonder. Does it have updates here? It probably doesn't have a check for updates. I did write a script that tries to dig a little bit deeper into updates, which probably broke. And then if we look at the link, oh my God, it's a JavaScript link. It's downloading 0.49, so maybe not today, huh? We can go to all downloads. And yeah, it seems like I don't have access yet. Maybe if I sign in. Oh no, I'm signing up with Google, with GitHub. So let's see. Do I have it now? Oh shit, I've already run into premium model request. When does it carry over? When does it carry over? Yo. Am I blind? All right, well, whatever. We'll burn them. If you burn them, then too bad. All right, so no new cursor. Actually, that's why I logged in, huh? So if we go to downloads, I still don't have 0.5. So I guess this is like a slow rollout or something. Just check this button. No. All right, well, no Cursor 0.5. I'm sorry. Like Ray was all excited. I'm not gonna do that. So too bad. So let's get started. Let's download Blender. I think I have the latest version of Blender installed. Boom, there we go. The first thing we're gonna do is like run some Python in here. And actually what I wanna do is I'm gonna look if there's an extension for Blender because so I've done a bunch of Blender programming in the past, right? Like I'm not fully new to this. And the way to develop Blender Python scripts outside and to have autocomplete, which is going to be important for us cursor vibe coding, is having hints which allow us to do that. There's probably some extension, which it looks like I've already installed. So the only command that I have to remember is you can do Blender and then You can start Blender. So let's see, does the starting even work? Or do I have more stuff to set up here? So can I do Blender start? So we can do Blender start. It's downloading a bunch of Python, so that's a good sign because it's probably going to download the Python stuff. And then here I can do 1+1. Is this a Python console? No. Oh, this is just a console. So, all right, so we have a debug console that launched Blender. Good to know. Then what else do we have? So we're exploring the Blender VS Code extension because maybe we won't even use an MCP for that. It will create a permanent soft link for to link your workspace. For extensions, add-ons. How do I create a new add-on? An add-on operator. Only Blender 2834 is supported. How can I reload my add-on? So maybe we'll be building an add-on first to just experiment, but maybe it's just like script tools is maybe just as good. Best to learn and test Blender's Python API. So that sounds exactly what we want to do. Usually scripts are written in Blender's text editor, however, it has fairly limited capability. So we do Blender new script. I'm going to open my Blender Labs, my GoGo Labs repo. Is that a good idea? Should I make like its own repo to this thing? Now I'm going to open it because we're going to be generating a bunch of documents that for now we may be going to put in there. So Labs is my repo in which I just like put all my vibe code garbage and stuff. So we're going to do Blender new script. And we're going to do new folder. And we're going to put it into GoGo Labs. Do I have a Python repo? I do have a Python folder. And here we're going to get Blender experimentation because we're not ready yet. Actually, we should call it Blender scripts. We're going to do a Blender folder and then we're going to do a scripts folder. And that's what we're going to use. So we do have a new script, command extension vim escape not found, discovering Python interpreter. There env environment updated restart extensions. Sure, why not? Python extension loading. So I guess we have to Blender start. Just going to put on another screen. So where is my Blender now? Blender. Oh, there it is. And it seems to work. All right, so we have a Blender screen. So now let's go back to the extension to learn a little bit more about it, because I still don't really know what it does. Blender. And so we built a new script. How do I reload my add-on? How do I reload this? How can I separate my development download? Development environment. Use VS Code feature multi-root workspaces for multiple add-ons. Script tools. So you create a new script. How can I run the script in Blender? First, you have to run a Blender instance with Blender start. And then you can do Blender run script. To run the script in the specific area, the preference way is to execute Blender set script location. So where's my script gone? Blender scripts. So script context. And we're going to do this in the movie clip editor video sequencer. That's the one we're going to use. I don't really know what that means, to be honest. Because my knowledge has a little bit disappeared. And then we can just do script start, right? And so I wonder if it will actually print out stuff or whatever. So we're going to do print D. And we're going to do start script. No, Blender. Blender run script. So it printed out something. So if we do print hello, it will also do, where was it? Run script. Guess we can do a command for this, right? Control Shift F4, maybe just F4, Control Shift F4. Keyboard shortcuts. And Blender run script. I'm going to assign a key binding. What key binding are we going to assign? And no. Backspace Shift Alt F9. It's a key on my keyboard. So if we're here and then we do, oh no, what does it do? Oh, it focuses that other thing. So keyboard shortcuts. Do we have a keyboard shortcut that clear key binding? How do I record keys? So we have show, run, and debug. We're just gonna remove this. Actually, Blender run script. Backspace Alt no. So which one are we going to use? F9? No, 3 commands exist. Control Shift F9. How do I remove this backspace thing? Remove key binding. Add key binding. Control Shift F4. How do I remove the chords? Holy shit. There we go. No, so it wasn't F5 that restarts Blender. All right, cool. So I can run this. This is perfect. And we guess we get started on building some Python stuff. So let me see. What are we going to start with? We're going to look at, so first we're going to switch this all to the video editing thing. Video editing. This is where our script is going to run. And I guess the first thing we can do is maybe load a movie. And I don't even know if I have a movie. So we're going to say test movie MP4 download. I don't know if there's like download sample videos. Why not do that? All right, so we downloaded Big Buck Bunny, which is a Blender movie, ironically, or not ironically, but so we're gonna go into a special folder, the Blender movie editor in my movies, and then we're going to look at what we just downloaded, and it was like Big Buck Bunny. No, what did it download here? It didn't download anything. It did. Sample video. Sample video. Why did it only download one? Download a second one. Download a third one. All right, we're going to move all of these into our test folder, and then we're going to try to start adding this this stuff. So maybe the first thing we're going to do, which is going to be interesting, is I'm going to take my deep research, right? And I'm going to add it into a folder where we're going to store all the different kind of stuff that we want to we want to reuse because I suspect the training corpus for Blender is not going to be the greatest. And there's many different versions of Blender, and apparently they changed the API, especially of the video sequence editor recently. So we'll be looking at that. So here's my Blender MCP video. Here's the Blender API video book, right? A book that amazingly didn't exist yesterday, but now does. And we're going to put this in here as new file, Blender video Python API for dummies.md. We're going to put all of this in here. And right, this is for the latest Blender API. I gave it to GitHub. I also gave it like a bunch of logs, and then we can start building these things. So maybe the first thing we're going to do is we're just going to go into our cursor editor, and it's going to be flesh out the Blender test script into multiple functions to walk us through the first chapter, add doc strings explaining what things are about, and then we're going to link the book, right? That way, we'll just be able to just like run it right from there, and I won't have to copy paste around. And I will also have doc strings explaining all of these things, and we'll see if it like, for example, compiles or not. So the first thing that's weird is like it tries to replace our little comment at the top. So what we're going to do is this little change. I guess I want to accept file, and then I'm going to set script context, and then we're going to use the video sequencer again. And what we're going to say is like, don't remove the comment above. It's important. And so now we have the Blender VSE Python API. There's a cannot find implementation library stub. So this is interesting. Blender extension VS Code stubs. Because I would imagine that this would work. So the Blender Python extension, Visual Code extension for Blender development. I think that's the one we use. And it doesn't say anything about stubs. How do I debug into third-party library code, script tools, core Blender development, download, contributing. This extension is not actively developed anymore. It has, however, been committed to last week. I wonder if there's improved handling of dependencies. We have some issues here. We're going to look for stubs. Maybe issue closed. Oops. So that's not the one I want. So I wonder what Python environment this uses. And maybe we'll just ask O3 to do a little bit of research how to get Blender stubs into VS Code, especially with the Blender extension. And we're just going to let that run. In the meantime, we're going to not worry too much about the errors for now. And we're going to dive in. So getting the active scene returns the scene. I guess that's the BPY context. Ensure the sequence editor exists. Also interesting. Print the sequence info, print the available commands. And then there's a main function. I think this is not going to work, but we can try it out. So we said Control-Shift F4. It doesn't do anything. I think if I remove it, then I will be able to run it. And there we go. This is pretty neat. So active scene is seen. Sequence editor created successfully. Number of strips 0. Number of channels 129. Available scenes. Scene test completed successfully. So that was great. We're going to rename this script to chapter one Blender book. And now we're going to do create scripts. So it's in a weird scripts folder, right? Like we put it inside Blender, but now it's creating it somewhere else. Create a script for the second chapter, like chapter 01. So I'm doing that just so it has the path and it creates the second folder. And we'll be moving on from there. I wish I had the stubs, but also we're doing so much with the AI that I'm maybe just not going to worry about it. We'll see what Aura 3 has found out. But to go back, show my screen to show you what I was showing, which is I've got this little application that I one-shot with Gemini, not one-shot like I did a few iterations, but mostly I didn't have to do charm bracelet low-level stuff, which is what happened before. Even with Sonnet, I would be like, oh, build a charm bracelet thing, and it would like not render it correctly. It would use the wrong widgets. It wouldn't know which messages to send and would hallucinate a lot. Like this one didn't. So it could be that Cursor's context finding was better, but also like it still didn't work with other models. And so what I can do here, I was showing that I can manage my Cursor MCPs. Like if I want to remove the scholarly one, just disable it. I can disable enable it. I can add a new server if I want with all the little flags that you want. So, and I was showing there's a little bit of jankiness here, right? Like the help fields are both the long fields and the short fields are like repeated, which they're not here. Here I can toggle the screen. There's actually stuff missing. Oh, it's just the width of it. So yeah, pretty nice. I was really impressed, and I was like, holy shit, this is great, because now I can actually do charm bracelet really quickly. Before it was always kind of a slog. Going back to our prompt here. So I was saying detailed book, very important part of the prompt. Python API of Blender, obviously that's what I want. For movie editing, important as well. Very detailed, just a trick to get it to do longer. Example scripts in my prompt is for it to generate enough good context that I can use later on. Reference for scripting is I want it to be exhaustive. Experienced developers, just so it doesn't like do too much LLM slop. New to Python scripting, however, is like introduce enough context that it actually works with Blender, instead of like skipping over details and say like, oh, you should import this, or you should do all of these things. And then programmatic video editing, this is mostly a prompt to steer the example scripts and maybe the structure of the book a little bit. And then I gave it a link to the current version of Blender so that it would search over there. And so if we look at the search trace, used 8 minutes. And so it's going to be pulling all of this together. The version name was in the URL, which is really practical, right? Otherwise, I would have had to specify this. So URLs are just words as well. And so in a way, they really matter. If this had been just like a hash, it probably would have like a little bit more harder time figuring out which API it is. I would have had to specify this maybe, but here it's pretty easy, right? And then it knows how to search for the right version, which is going to be influencing all the search results. Really, really important that just the version is there, right? Because otherwise it would search and it would say like Python Blender editing, and it would be finding all kinds of stuff from like version 2, from when people were blogging about it. Here it's able to then discriminate the things that it finds. It's using the docs a lot. I wonder if it's using GitHub a lot. I know that it skips over a lot of the thinking that it does here. So, however, if we go down to the sources at the bottom, then we can probably see, oh, it's mostly using the docs. It's not using GitHub. So that's interesting. All sources. So this is how I created this document, which now allows us to pretty quickly build some pretty good documents around Blender, and then using these documents to create good files. And what I'm going to do to create good programs, what I'm going to do is take my second book, Blender Internals for Dummies. And it's scary how much better these books are than like most of the technical books I've read. It's really, I don't know if scary is the word, but it's I mean, a lot of people write books to show some clout and stuff like that, but now everybody can generate pretty good technical books, and books are still really, really important, and it allows you to tell what books are really valuable and which ones aren't. The books that are really valuable are the ones that contain information that can't be gathered by pattern matching on web sources. Of course, if the web sources are really good content, then it will like seep through. But it still doesn't make a book, right? Like a book will guide you and help you get really deep insights that you wouldn't have before, which is why a lot of programming books are just garbage, because they're basically rehashing standard ideas and like adapting it to a new API that's going to be deprecated, right? But then there's really good books that are kind of timeless and don't focus on a certain technology that contain information that conveys it in such a way that as a human you get really good at it, and you can also prompt LLMs with it then later, but the book has value on its own rather than just like a feeding an LLM's information. So I added this one, which is more about the internals of Blender. I hope we don't get to use it too much, because this is a much more confusing book. This was mostly more for me because I think if we want to do things with the lower level API, say like building compositing nodes to do effects in our video, I will probably generate a book that's, as the one we've just seen, much more focused and fleshed out for this one domain that we're interested in, instead of giving it, you know, a pretty generic thing. However, this document's going to help us like maybe debug things, right? It contains a lot of information about why something might throw an error. It gives us like a lot of context around which tools are, which functions are available, all of these. So we could, if we have a problem in our script, we could do some logging of, say, the attributes of an object, and then use that to prompt a thinking model to explain us what's going on. And actually, why don't we just do that, right? So we are building scripts here. And I am now interested in a script that examines the DNA model. So that's the model that Blender uses for its data, using the video editor primitives, and logs all kinds of attributes and options out of these objects on the console, along with the path used, etc., to shine some light on the data structures and APIs. So store in, what are we going to call it? Appendix explore DNA vs video sequence editor .py. And currently we don't have anything in the editor, so that's probably not going to be very interesting. We'll run it, but probably because it's empty, it won't tell us all that much. So we'll fill it, and then I'll show how using the script and its output, we can link that back to the internals document and get either some insight, get some debugging help, get some all kinds of stuff here. So pretty cool. Gonna look at, see how it kept this thing here. It explains how we do things, and so it did this in the exact same structure as the other scripts, obviously because it's pattern matching on this. And so as such, it's important the first one we generate kind of make sure that it has the shape that you want, right? Here it didn't really look, but I probably should have like fleshed out these doc strings a little bit. And I can actually do that, right? It's like use 02 Blender internals API to flesh out the doc strings and teach me about what is going on. Also add some more information about the internals to the output. I want to learn and understand this stuff. So while I'm at it, and I was talking about doing things with more intent, I'm going to actually, I'm going to reuse this prompt. I'm going to reuse the API Blender video API prompt. I'm going to copy the prompt, and I'm going to reuse this. And however, of Blender for building an add-on. I am especially interested in widgets and interactivity. Very detailed example scripts reference, example add-ons and functions. This is for experienced who are new to building add-ons, to Python scripting in Blender, and want to build add-ons to do programmatic video editing. To do programmatic video editing and all right, so, and then we just say like, look at this same thing. We're going to turn on deep research. We're going to let this run while we're in the background. It's going to ask me one round of questions, so I should stay here. And we'll be able to then use this document here to turn whatever functions we built into a little add-on that will, right, like an add-on, like for example, split by add captions. All these, they're programmatic under the hood, but they are presented as a UI, and the UI is going to be where I spend most of my time. And one of the potential features we're going to have, and that's what I'm going to store under ideas, because saving your ideas is just as important as implementing them. So under Blender, I'm going to create a new file, which is ideas of what to build .md. And I'm going to say one thing is like add-ons to call the functionality we build. So I'm just going to do add-on ideas, then general ideas. And here under the add-ons is like being able to call an LLM to generate stuff directly in Blender would be pretty nice, right? One idea that I have is like, is generative UI possible? Is another one. So this seems stuck. I have had this like a little bit lately, and I have to like reload the whole screen. So we're going to see what this does. Are you getting? Yeah. Blender 443. Scope of video editing. Yes. 3 output format. Chapters, modules, very extensive. Index, make an index. So that I forgot in the first one. 4, depth of examples, both. And then also add a chapter about generative UI where we build different UIs on demand, for example, modals, etc. Because one of the functionality that I might want is to have these calls to an LLM actually generate UIs that I can then use on demand, right? Like if I want to say, oh, look at this video, like I wanted to have a UI to split between these two B-roll footages, and then it just generates a UI for me to do this thing that's specific to this one video. So that would be pretty cool. It's a pattern that I use at work, which is really nice, and you can like quickly iterate on things, right? Like just to show you how I can iterate on things is like build a mock Blender add-on UI using HTML plus JS that I can use to programmatically split my video into sections, add 2 B-roll strips, and then quickly edit and split the B-roll in and out. And so now I can just prototype Blender add-on APIs, and it doesn't matter that this is completely not Blender, it's HTML and JS. But the fact that I already say Blender add-on will cause it to do certain widgets, because widgets are usually called the same, right? Like a button in HTML is the same as a button in Blender. It's the word button. And I can transport that pretty easily. And also I can take screenshots of this. I can just like experiment, but leverage the training corpus of HTML and CSS. I mean, the CSS is less important because we do have the what you call it? The Blender look, the Blender UI look, but maybe I can do a CSS that looks like the Blender UI look and then just generate HTML and just save myself the CSS. And then here, I think it will probably try to generate the whole Blender UI, while I just want like the add-on UI. So this is stuff we can refine our prompt with, but this allows me to then use Claude artifacts, which I really kind of like, to quickly generate like different UIs. Right, and so this allows us to get some stuff here, and obviously, like as I said, it would create like the main thing, but we can do split video. It's going to split these. It actually split it here. Like the polish that Claude is able to add is pretty interesting. Can we do this? No, I already added it. B-roll duration 20 seconds. Add B-roll strip 1. So there's like many strips already down here. And I can do split videos at 10 seconds. I already did that. So I can then regenerate this. And for example, I have like my mock timeline. This is also something I can reuse, right? So I can regenerate this just to add on UI. And then I'll show you a technique that we're going to use when we implement this to actually reuse this concept of generative stuff we do here and make it able to generate both HTML and Blender and all kinds of UIs at the same time, so we can prototype in different environments and just have an easier time building the stuff that we need. So going back to exploring the Blender API, now that I gave it this book that I generated, I'm able to fill out the comments pretty well, right? The script is both a tool and a learning resource for exploring Blender's video sequence editor. It demonstrates data block system, DNA, and RNA, and that comes out straight out of the book. And because the book is didactic, this script is probably going to be didactic, so in the right order. It's going to explain and walk us through different examples. It logs all the properties. So this is also going to be useful, logging all the properties and stuff like that, to paste it back into the chat and have it retrieve the relevant sections out of a book, right? And then explain to us what this log means and why maybe something is an error, or also allow us to recognize if there's a mismatch between what's in the book and what's actually true. So pretty useful. Shouldn't be drinking like carbonated drinks on stream. So anyway, provides commentary and references to help us understand. So this is all good. Run the script in Blender's Python text editor or in the Python console while in the video editing workspace. That's what we're doing here. Blender's core data is organized in ID data blocks, each defined in C structs and exposed to Python via RNA. The video sequence editor is a domain within Blender. So I don't know what a domain is. So I could go in here and say like, explain also what a domain is as a sublist C, and now I'm going to link my Blender book, right? So I can basically flesh out the script that is didactic and add all this information and know that it's grounded on this document that I generated. So domains help understand the logic, the code base. That's cool. Each domain, can I just, this is fucking ugly as well. The Python API is auto-generated from RNA. So that's why the API is like a little bit weirdish. It's like generated out of C code. And the script introspects all of this, showing you the real structure and options available. For more, see the companion doc. And it's nice to have names in here because as the models is reading this file, it will know which files to also pull in case it needs more. This is going to be printing out stuff as we do our script, right? And then we can just run it and see kind of what happens, right? And it was like Control-Shift F4. And so if we run it, we can see if exceptions are happening, like kind of what is going on here. And right, like now, this is a lot of information, obviously, since it's inspecting like everything. So we might want to reprompt it and say like, oh, make like a less detailed view of all of this. Or we could ask questions where if we add this to the chat, oh my God, the copy paste is just so annoying. So if we select this, and then we go to the chat. Oh, it doesn't link it. It does that if you're in the terminal. I guess it doesn't do it if you're in the console. So we can copy this, we can add it in here, and then we can say, does this match your documents, and does this match? And we can like cross-reference now our video Python book and say like, oh, does this actually match the APIs you wrote about in the book? And hopefully that is true. And maybe what I should have done here. So I'm using currently, I think, oh, it's on auto even. Jesus Christ. So let's stop the auto, and we're going to go here and we're going to turn on a thinking model, right? And so we're going to turn on Gemini 2.5 Pro because I am going to look at the thinking trace. And the thinking trace is kind of like a systematic way of walking you through different APIs and different structs, which is always interesting to look at. And also it's something that I can read while it's streaming, which often is not the case with, say, Sonnet and things like this. So I need to compare the provided output and the scripts approach with the content of both markdown files, and then it's going to go over every little word that it has in the input. So that's why I used the inspection to say like, yeah, please tell me like what the API is called itself by going over the attributes, which have been auto-generated from this RNA struct stuff, and just make sure that they match whatever the other book is. So the script commentary in the output itself showing RNA type property types, the script explains the sequence editors and ID data block defined and blah, 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 perfectly aligned with chapter 2, etc. So if I were not on stream, I would actually read this quite closely and kind of just excuse me, man. I didn't sleep very well. So will teach me about the API itself much more in depth maybe than the book. This seems like a Twitch bot. Yeah, if you can't hear me, that kind of sucks. And yeah, so we're going to see breakdown, DNA, RNA, direct reflection. They all match. Modular design. That's cool. Python API. Alignment with the video editor. The video explicitly, the guide explicitly states, have an associated, all of that. In summary, serves as an excellent practical companion to both documents. So because I grounded the API in like the version number and it was able to look up the right documentation and maybe even do some GitHub spelunking, I'm pretty sure that this is a good document. And this is kind of critical, right? Like if I have bad documents and bad APIs from the start, I'm just going to code myself into some nonsense. I'm not sure what this is doing here. Unsupported target for indexed assignment. I mean, I could ask it in a chat. I don't know what Python is doing. Fix in chat. Quick fix. No, I don't want to fix. I want to talk about it. So I do Control K and say like, what is this error? Does it know about the linting error? And then just ask it a question instead of like, so type checking error suggesting that the video doesn't understand that this is a mutable thing. This is a false positive. The code is actually correct. How do I suppress the lint error? Type ignore to ignore this. All right, so I'm going to do this. No. Here. No, more. This, taking the whole thing, suppress linter errors. All right, we're already 1 hour in. Pretty amazing. What is this doing? No, just, that's not what I want. No, just add a ignore comment. It misunderstood what suppress meant. I just wanted to mean suppress the warning, not don't fix the error. No, it should, not the right thing. No, on each line. Jesus, Sonnet, you're having trouble today. That's what I wanted. I guess I really should have done this with VI. It could have taken me 2 seconds. So anyway, and then here as well, suppress all the errors, and that's just going to help the model not be confused, because Cursor kind of adds the linter errors in there. All right, cool. So I'm not going to go deeper into this one. I'm going to, however, continue in my book here. And I'm going to create a script, which we have chapter 2 here is another one that we have. The script demonstrate how to import various media into Blender VSE, right? And we can do the same thing here, which is flesh out chapter 2. And I'm going to leave like just Gemini, because why not? Using 01 Blender Video API to have nicer doc strings. And because it has the other script in its context window as well, it will match the styles, and that's going to be something we'll repeatedly do, is just reuse the code that we generated before to keep the same kind of approach, right? And hopefully this will also be across models, so that Gemini will use the same style that probably Sonnet used before. And I kind of like this, but I do want to have like a little bit more text in here. I wonder if it's going to add like printouts with more info as well, like it did before, which are always like, the printouts are kind of important, because these tools do look at the output of the code that they write, and they will match it with the source code as well. And also it will indicate intent. So there's just like a lot of feedback going on, which is if these explanations match the code, especially when we have things like frame final duration, right? Like that's a weird kind of API, because it could be like final duration. It could be like final duration second, or this person is not going away. I don't know. I don't know, Amber Litchi, what this is all about. You're welcome to stay here and not hear what I say. It's too bad, because that's mostly what this is about. And so it added a bunch of stuff, right? Like, so it added these doc strings, which are nice. As detailed, this method directly creates a movie strip length. This method does not automatically create a length sound strip. So this is additional information that is pretty nice to know, in that that's something a model might want to know when it looks, and I say like, oh, please import this video. And then it says like, yeah, but it's not going to have audio. So maybe I'll add an audio track for your video as well, right? So this is pretty nice. And then it will also just like test here, right? And so it added these kinds of warnings, and these are warnings that are just going to help the model as well to say like, well, if it's not set, right, it wouldn't have warned it before. And here it just tells like, oh yeah, like this is the error that I'm having, and also I'm not going to continue running. So these things are really useful, because if there's like an MCP tool that runs this script, which we don't have here right now, then it will see this output. It will see it here in the debug console, which sadly it doesn't seem to be integrated with the chat. And I can copy paste it at least, and it will know exactly like, oh yeah, put this into there. So that's the first thing I'm going to do, right? It's like I'm actually going to go into my movies Blender editor, and then I'm going to say this is all the movies that you should use, and I'm going to remove this one. All right, so I'm just going to link this in here, and I'm going to say update, right? And I know in 3.5 is the media we want to use. I know that in the new Cursor version, apparently you have like a quick way to edit the entire file. I mean, I think it's not going to do much different than what I just did, but maybe. Who knows? I'm going to take a short break while we're at it, and I'm going to come back because I do need to take I went straight from breakfast to here, so I prepared a little screen for that I sadly closed. Let me see in my little chats. loading, break. Severance inspired hydration and coding break. I'll see which one I like. I think this one is pretty sweet. And then yeah, I can choose the break protocol, initiate it. Yeah, this is my favorite one. Copy the link, and then can I favorite this guy? I guess not. But before we go, let's just take a look at the new UI that it generated for the add-on. See, this is like amazing kind of UI, right? And I can say like sudo code Python on how for Blender integration. And I can transform these things pretty easily into actual Blender code, right? So this really kind of a nice thing. It's obviously not perfect, but it gives me like a good way of just prototyping things. And this is also something that I can give, say, to a video editor and say like, look, dude, just like go into Claude and edit this, and you can then give it to me and I'll integrate it. So let me just change the text, by the way, I realize. Building a Blender video editor. Vibe coding. Vibe coding a Blender video editor. There we go. And I'm going to leave it at the loading screen for now. And we'll see each other in like a little, in 10 minutes. All right. All right. See you, folks. See you in a bit. Alrighty, righty. Let's go back to this and we'll see how long I make it. I also just got invited to an event, so we'll see how that goes. Let me see so I don't mess up my notifications here. Because I'm using my phone as my camera, which is not the best idea, and I kind of wonder if this is going to refresh. Let me just see this event that I'm going for, which hopefully, it's the darkroom opening. I like analog photography, and there's like a big darkroom opening. It's at 2 p.m. Perfect. All right, yeah, I'm going. Let me see. All right. That said, let's go back. So what I did, we have chapter 2 for adding strips to all of that, and I just edited the path for the media that I have, so I don't, again, have to type stuff by hand, because who does that these days? And it looks like the camera is not fully centered on the green screen. There we go. Perfect. All right. I do need to have like a better lens, because this is like the wide lens, so I have to put my camera in like some pretty weird situation, pretty close to my face as well. I would like to have it like pushed a little bit back. Anyway, we've got chapter 2, which is going to teach us about accessing the sequence editor, adding movie scripts, adding image strips. So new image, that's going to be interesting. Adding new sound, because we don't have images, we don't have sound. So we will see it has video files here. It will get the active scene. It will ensure the sequence editor, right? And those are things that already, if we look at the implementation, already this code is a much better name for a LLM, right? Because it could just say like, if I say like open the sequence editor, it's just going to be able to call like these two things and get the sequence editor without having to A, write many more tokens, B, have the risk of doing it wrong, and it's also reproducible, and I can just like verify it, document it, share it pretty easily. So it has a test media directory, has our 3 movie strips. It goes there and then recaps the merged movie strips, and then it doesn't add the audio and image sequences, so we're going to add those as well, right? In fact, what we're going to do is we're going to go into a new chat. We're going to use Sonnet 3.5, and then we're going to see extract audio and a few images from the movie strips to actually exercise the whole script, right? And so it has the whole script. It knows the path. It will find it because it's an easy pattern matching for it to do. And it will know that it has 2 functions called add sound and all of that. So I'm curious to see if it's going to add Python to do it, or if it's going to run a command with FFmpeg, which is what I hope it does. We have access to the sample videos. I'll create a data structure. It goes into this directory, makes some extracted audio frames, and then it uses FFmpeg to extract it. So perfect. Now let's modify the Python script. See, like I knew that Sonnet 3.5 would do exactly what I want without doing too much. And in fact, to show you the difference, I'm going to go back and I'm going to run the same thing with 3.7, and we're going to see the difference, right? So here already it's like stripping this out. Well, I'm not sure why it does that. And oh, it's interesting. It was able to add the audio strip in here. So maybe there's some things that I don't want to change here. So I want to keep this. I want to keep this change here. I do want to keep this change, and then it adds the extracted and the image sequence, which is what I wanted. And if we go into the directory, movie editor is I think what I called it. And we go into extracted, right? we can find the extracted, and we can like find extracted type F, and then we can do xargs file and just like see what they are. One of them is a audio, obviously AAC, and then the other one's just like a bunch of PNGs. So perfect. And I guess what we can do now is just like run it, right? Just see what happens. So run script, which I guess I had a command. We can look at what's the output down here, and we can see there's an error. So things are starting to get interesting, right? Things are starting to get interesting. We're going to rerun this just so that we have a clearer view. And now we're going to be able to leverage our. Oh, I cleared it, and it seems that it's broken. Did my Blender exit? That's pretty cool. So Discal Blender, pretty cool. Blender start. Yeah, we're going to run this Blender, and oh, we're actually going to see the previous output, right? So it said operating on screen, adding movie scripts, and then adding sound strips. And what did it say here? File strip path, sound strip object has no attribute file path, which is exactly what I was going to say. The API is going to be weird, and introspecting is going to be interesting. And then apparently it just like completely kills Blender, which is cool. Because if we rerun this, we'll see if Blender crashes. It didn't crash? All right, well, that's cool. So we can... Actually, what is it doing? All right, so it's running here, right? And then we can take this code, copy, and then we can go in here, or maybe into, right? Remember how we previously added debugging code? So we're going to open a new chat, and then we're going to say, I run into this, use the info in chapter, no, it's in the Blender video Python API for Dummies, add logging introspection code like in appendix to debug this, right? And maybe we'll already turn on the thinking because we have enough in our thinking, in our context window. We have the book, we have a bunch of scripts, we have the terminal output, we have all of that to let it do some thinking traces to see what kind of logging it needs to add. So this is going to add even more tokens to the context window that's, however, are going to be tokens that put things into perspective and allow it to probably make better choices in what to print. It's going to be like, oh, it looks like it doesn't have this, but it's a VSE object that's been referenced in this chapter, so I think I should add this. All this yapping that it does here for 18 seconds is like going to probably help us have better logging. And the cool thing is that this is rabbit hole because I don't know the API, right? It's like I'm using the LLM to vibe code something that I don't know about, that I don't care about. And however, I do want to have this feeling of not only making progress while I program, but also to help me not rabbit hole for forever. Because if I just continue here and don't have potentially an understanding of why this error might happen, I do want to have I do want to gain this knowledge, even though I don't want to waste too much of my time. I don't want to do all the pattern matching. I don't want to inspect the objects by hand. I'm going to let the model tell me about all of this systematic kind of looking at it, right? And so the plan is consult the documentation, sure, inspect the sound strip. If the documentation doesn't clarify to confirm, I'll add introspection code to the add sound strip, which will ground it into the current API. And then the code will print out the available attributes and properties of the soundstrip object. Another thing we could do, instead of using this manual that I generated that I don't fully trust, is we could load the Blender source code and mess with it. The other thing that I wonder is like, is this actually the latest version? Are we actually using 4.4.3? Because I think we're not. I think we might not be. How do I see the version in here? How do I see the Blender version? About Blender 4.4.1. Okay, so we might want to download Blender 443, right? Download Blender for Linux. And I've been a donator to the Blender project for 20 years now, or like 15 years, 20. It's just the best open source project out there, I think. That's my take. It's just so cool, and the model is so cool as well, where they basically pay artists to make movies and they write the software for making the movie or the game to support it, and they have like a whole studio to do that. It's just incredible. So we're unpacking Blender. We're going to move Blender 443 into my local apps folder. And then we're going to go into local bin. We're going to look at where the current Blender is symlinked. Yeah, you can see it's symlinked to the other version. And then we're going to symlink it to --apps Blender 443 Blender, right? All right, so now we have Blender 443 because I know the API has changed. So maybe what we need to do is Blender start, right? And now it's going to start 443. Just going to verify it. So I don't think the API has changed because it's just a minor change. So I think if we relaunch this, it's just going to do the same bug. So that's cool. However, we do now have all of this info here where it thinks about what it should be doing. So we can tell it's consulting the documentation, and that kind of just helps me not spend too much time, right? Like I don't need to open the file, don't need to skim it, yet I will still get some kind of understanding. It's not going to be as strong as if I spent the friction time to do that, right? Like there's this fine balance between having just frustrating learning about stuff that no one cares about, and then also because you do spend actually more time and do have more intent rather than just seeing like content scroll by, here you do gain a better understanding. Like I know that if I look at the thinking traces, I'm not really learning it, but I'm learning enough today to maybe help me consolidate some bigger concepts. But it's not like I would learning as well as if I spent 3 hours now going through the document in the book, right? But it gives me like some kind of understanding, and it gives me like a better sense of what's in the code base. Especially if I wasn't on stream, I would be more careful about this. So I need to reread it. The example does not print the strip file path. It shows it, right, as a persistent attribute. And so it will look at the appendix script to see the error. It seems that file path isn't a direct attribute. So all these thinking tokens that it kind of emits, it's like they do help coming up to this conclusion, which in this case is really not hard to get without having it spelled explicitly. But it always helps to still have it in here, right? Because then it knows this is going to influence the next part, which is going to be adding the introspection node. And we'll say like, well, it looks like file path is not there. I'll introspect that. And I'll insert a similar loop into add sound strip right after sound strip is created and before the problematic print statement, which is exactly what I want as well, right? Like, and so this thinking that it's doing, it's not writing code yet. It's writing the intent and the approach of the code. It's saying like, well, I want to debug file path, so I'm going to do this, and then it writes the code. In this case, I'm pretty sure it would have just like one-shot the code, but this is like this bigger context, right? So let's check add movie script and add image strip, which is also good. It's possible that for sound strip, the actually is packed into the blend file managed through a different property, right? So this is also thinking tokens, because it now has the big document. There's still pattern matching to be done, but this is like pre-filtering things before it gets to the real actual file for this, instead of doing its thinking while emitting this, right? So we'll see, it looks like the sound strip object in Blender doesn't have a direct file path, unlike movie strip and image strip. So image strip does it have it? And then to figure out the correct way to access the sound files path, I'll add some introspection code at out sound strip and strips blah, 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 blah. So it adds a little bit of introspection code, which we have already written before in the other example script. So that helps. The thing with thinking models and adding so much information around here is that this quickly leads for these like 20 lines of files, we wasted 30,000 tokens, right? So that's something to keep in mind. This approach is pretty wasteful on tokens. So that's why I would probably, if I continue debugging this, I would just like probably start a new chat pretty soon, because now I will have the more explicit logging. Also, these book documents are pretty big. So not the most efficient approach either, right? So let me see. We have cursor open. We have updated our script. So now we can probably run our script again and see what happens. And I don't know how to call up the debug console. Debug output. Focus on debug console view. All right, there we are. So we're going to clear this and we're going to run it again. And here we can see a little bit more about the properties, and then we can see it's still like emitting this like audio strip print F, so it still doesn't have it, right? And then it looks like it's emitting this twice. So I'm not sure, but we're going to, now we have all of this DNA properties information. So now it's going to be able to tell us more about all of that and potentially which attribute is actually relevant. And I don't really care about doing the detailed work, right? But if I were to do it by hand, I would probably pick up on some peripheral things here, effect fader, blend alpha, use linear modifiers, all of these things. Like the more you confronted with them in a like friction mode where you're like thinking hard, that will stay more than me just like browsing through right now and saying like blah, 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 whatever. However, it will hopefully solve my problem, and it will fix the script, which I will then in the future reuse to prompt. And so as such, it will help me avoid this error in the future, even though I didn't really put too much time into it. However, I can also look at the thinking process, right? And it says like, oh, I don't see any properties here that would hold the sound data block or the file path. My introspection code was designed to catch this. The API docs should be very similar, but it doesn't look like it. And this might be a good point, since apparently this is not in the docs, to load the source code of Blender and like kind of say like, look, this is the actual code. I'm not sure what it's trying to do here. So it says, I don't see any property here. Perhaps the sound data block is one of these properties, but its string representation doesn't make it obvious. So my nested check didn't catch it. So here's doing all this like matching of tokens of the output introspection that we did. And hopefully it will latch onto something interesting like it just did. Do some more yap, and link it to the book and link it to all of this. And then we'll see what this is, right? And so this is interesting. Did it do an actual search, or did it just say that it was doing a search? Hard to tell. If prop name has sound, then prop value should be the send data block, then has at should have been true. Why didn't the output show it? So this is it thinking about itself, right? And here, if I loaded the source code of Blender, it would maybe be like more interesting. So we'll see. If this still doesn't work, we're going to load the Blender source code and we'll see what it does. Or maybe we'll redo the whole process, right? So I wonder. Yeah, so now it's cheating, right? As API documentation suggests, the sound strip sound file path structure. The good news is that for specifics, so where's the documentation? Which API documentation? And here's cheating now. It says like, oh, I'll have to print the file path. Well, I already have it, so I'm not going to try to get it out of the sound strip. But actually, I do want to get it out of the sound strip because that might be pretty important in the future to get the file path for a sound strip, because that's something we might use to potentially call external tools and do all that kind of stuff, right? So we're going to load the Blender source code. So to do that, we're going to go to GitHub. I think it's just Blender. So I have a folder where I put all the source code that I'm interested in. Blender's not there yet. So I'm going to clone Blender. We're going to check out V443. And then we're going to point cursor at it and say, like, look, here's the real stuff. The search result confirms that it doesn't have a sound file path attribute. It has a sound attribute, which is sound is the one that should contain all of these. And for the sound attribute, sound strip, sound refers, this page will show. That's a weird way of phrasing it. So it has packed file. Interesting. And it doesn't have a file path, right? It has 52 hits, inherited functions. So it didn't load this. It didn't load this page. Interesting. And then it's still trying to cheat. No, is it? Oh, no. Check it out. So I think this is kind of important to figure out. And also just I wanted to show you this process of cloning a repo, putting it into your folders, and then just asking the real deal. That's like an amazing feature of LLMs, right? It's like it helps you go into big ass code bases. Like, I don't know how old the Blender source code is at this point. It's like early 90s. So we're like in 30 years, 30 plus years. Huge complex code base with a lot of stuff that's not relevant to our question necessarily. Huge thing that's like hard to dive into, because these big code bases, you have to figure out like what's even the structure. So probably because it's such a big project, the structure is probably pretty clean, but still it will be like hard to just dive in and find it after 5 seconds, right? And there's a lot of stuff I don't care about. I'm not a Blender developer. I actually really don't care about Blender, Blender's like code base structure per se. I'm interested in like building a movie editor. So I've reviewed the add sound strip. So here what it does. Well, see, this looks a little bit more interesting, and I don't know if it like actually caught the error. I think not. I think at this point it's starting to hallucinate, and we do have the same errors, right? Like expect this time it's pitch. So that is interesting. And I'm curious to see what it's doing over here. So RNA properties, sound contains file path. So that's great. It was able to find it, right? And then now it's like blipping out on pitch, sound strip pitch, sound strip pan. That's going to be on the sound itself. So those are pretty good to look at as well, right? It's so what I might do now is use the doc pages for sound strip, since we seem to have trouble with these two, and write a reference document in TTEM 25.5.10. And where do I have this? 25.5.10, and then it's going to be 03 Blender sound strip sound Python API.md, so that we can and write a full reference, full and detailed reference document, and so that we can avoid these errors in the future. In addition to the reference part, add a lot of nice and useful examples. Because again, I do want to have a document that has higher level functions that will allow me to do stuff like that. And my camera is doing what? All right, back. There we go. And we're back. I need to up my camera game. I have a digital like mirrorless camera that I could use. Be full and detailed. I should extract key attributes and method, explain them, show their types, include a lot of nice and useful examples for both sound strip and sound. So It did stop thinking because I think we're starting to be in token territory, token limit territory. So I'm going to switch models, right? Like how far are we into the context window? It doesn't tell us. It like usually it like goes after a while, but so I'm going to switch to the max model. And instead of having like too much of this in here, I'm just going to go back to the previous message and start again from there. So I wonder if it has loaded both of these web pages or if it's going to hallucinate stuff. That's actually kind of important. You're absolutely right. And it has the sound ID thing. And it might have loaded the responses here. We'll see, right? We'll see what comes out. And if it fixes our problems, then we're good. If it needs updates, we might want to make sure that it downloads the right documents instead of hallucinating something, because it already has hallucinated stuff. So let's see. I wish I had keyboard shortcuts for this like debug console stuff. I should do this. If we look at all of these things, core concept, sequence editor, sound strip properties, sound documentation. See, it doesn't have the link for sound strip. No, it has. So I hope that this matches, because it has pitch for the sound strip, and I don't think this is true. The introspectant showed sound strip's pitch, but it says here sound strip object has no attribute pitch. So I think it didn't read it. Haha. I think this is hallucinated and it lied to me. And so you start getting a sense of when they do that, right? Like the more you use them, the more you get a sense. So here it has pan, but it doesn't have pitch, right? So that's how I can tell that it didn't load it. And so that means I'm going to reprompt this. I'm going to link both files here because I don't know what cursor is doing exactly. And then I'm going to say, make sure the reference is grounded in the API documentation, not our script or the debug output. And so, yeah, you get a sense. The more you use them, the more you get a sense for these things. And obviously, that's going to make a huge difference in how good you are at building LLMs. Because if I were to just go down the rabbit hole, not care about my context window, not understand the grounding of all of it, I will create broken documents. It's just going to go spiral out of control. Here, because I had a sense that it was going to hallucinate and not actually load this HTML file, I had a hunch that the response would be wrong, because I had in mind the script that we had, which was broken as well. That's why, because it says sound strip pitch, it was able to confuse the sound strip pitch with the sound.pitch, which worked. And so just make up all of this stuff. So hopefully this document is going to be better. And if not, we'll load the Blender source code. We'll start with a fresh context window and we'll say like, look, here's the documentation online. Here's the, well, we'll first like add it. Actually, why don't I just show you that stuff instead of talking about it? So add folder to workspace. We're going to go into others Blender. We're going to check out V443. We're going to go into Blender. We're going to do git tag. And then we have git checkout 443. We're now on the same branch, right? We do have a new document created. So let's just see if this actually is good. So sound, big properties, doesn't have the pitch. So where's the pitch? I thought this would have been, it says sound strip pitch. This is weird because this one doesn't say pitch, but Blender sound strip pitch. Yeah, I think this just doesn't exist, huh? it has pan, it has sound, sound offset, strip, channel. Yeah, so I don't know why the model's so hard of comprehension, because in the logs that we pasted, it says that pitch doesn't exist. So I don't think this is blend data sounds, pitch. I don't know why it made it up. I think it's because of the pan, and pan and pitch are usually things that are in sequencers quite a bit. So time to just basically undo this, right? Because it's wrong. And we're going to start a new chat. And in this new chat, we're actually going to use one of the smaller models, which are good at tool calling. And we're going to say, verify this document. We're going to keep the document for now. No, find in Blender / right? Like Blender, the repo. Why does it have like Blender app? How do I find the main repo in here? Let's go look at what's in our file browser just to find a good entry point. So find this in Blender, source, Blender, internal, DNA, sound, sound strip, sequencer, sec sound. Maybe there's a file called sound strip. Sequencer, intern, strip, add, edit, all of these. That's probably pretty good. So it's going to be in sequencer, intern, strip, right? So we're gonna just point it at this directory here. Find in Blender sequencer. So I don't know how to reference these freaking directories. Sometimes I can, sometimes I don't. So I think if I just do add sequencer, it will allow me to choose a folder. No. I'm going to do sequencer intern, strip, and related files in the same folders to cross-check the API. If necessary, search further in the Blender code base. And so this is going to really ground it, right? Like if it's in the source code and this is the source code for the build we're using, then this is going to be good. And I'd give it the strip time, which wasn't like the best entry point, right? But maybe I should, all right, so no, so this wasn't a good idea. So let's go back here, find in strip time. So this is going to be Blender, source, Blender, sequencer, right? And actually I'm going to give it the full path. Oh shit. I'm going to give it, what's going on here? Gonna go give it the full path, home, manual, code, others, Blender, to not have this latch on too much on this starting point, right? I added it, you little freak. I added it right here. It's available for example, readme.md. Cool. So now it's searching for the right thing. It's using grep to search for structs and all of that. So this is sequence types, right? Like it's the file that I wanted to find. It's great to have an agent just do that stuff for me. I would have done the same greps and stuff, but it would have taken me literally probably a minute to get to this file. And it's like a minute that's like, what do I care about grepping a source code base? Like that's really not a useful use of my time. It's only stuff that I can get wrong and get irritated by. It's not going to teach me anything. However, looking at these, this is stuff that's going to teach me stuff. And right, like more and more I do this, and I have a little bit of friction. If the file path attribute would have worked, I wouldn't have learned so much about Soundstrip and sound. So right, so the friction and the errors that you get while coding with LLMs should be not something that you try to resolve as fast as possible. They are actually the engineering you need to do to further enable then in the future stuff going on Rails, right? Because when I have an updated document, I can not only when I have forgotten all about it, but also give it to my colleagues and stuff. We'll just be able to build stuff without understanding it. But this is the engineering that I do. This is where I spend my time, and this is what has value, is writing these documents much more than actually writing the thing that I want to do, or like generating the thing that I want to do. So it says strip has pitch. Set sound pitch at frame. Strip base structure for all strip things. Struct strip. Where is it defined? Where is the struct strip defined? Struct strip. Strip time. I don't know. Is it defined here somewhere? It's defined pragma once. Audio device, extern C. What is the struct strip? There it is, type DNA sequence types. And here there's no pitch, right? So I'm going to say like, this is not entirely correct. Use DNA sequence types as the root reference. I wonder why this is all like commented out. It's probably just like some C++ versus C kind of stuff. It does have the pitch, but it's DNA deprecated. It's so weird. Deprecated was 01. So maybe my output here is printf sound volume, soundstrip pitch. Soundstrip object has no attribute pitch. So maybe they deprecated it in this API. What does DNA deprecated do is that the reason I can't access pitch in Python, because I'm going to now paste this, and I'm making sure that the file name of my script is in there so that the agent knows where it might want to look up that kind of stuff, right? So this has all value. I'll show the function. I'll show the lines of code. I don't care about main, so that's where I'm stopping. But then I will and maybe I'll also link that part. So the choice of what I copy paste in, I can be pretty flippant about it, and I can also be pretty precise about what I choose and what I don't choose, because you add like a lot of potentially confusing stuff in there. Like this would have been like maybe pretty useful to add in there, to just say like, yo, this is oops py, because this allows it to map this to the Blender source code, right? DNA deprecated is used. That field should no longer be used. When it's deprecated, the field remains in the C struct, but it is explicitly hidden from the Python API exposure. And so now we can say update 03 Blender Soundstrip to actually match the real implementation. And so now that I have all this grounded source code in my context window, plus explanations, plus all kinds of stuff, I can update my document to be like much higher quality. So we're really going pretty slow, but I'm being pretty methodic and pretty methodical, and it's a stream, so I'm talking, so it's pretty slow as well. And I think we'll do 1 more hour because then I need to go. And however, we're making a little bit of progress because these files we're going to reuse in the future, and then things are going to go much, much faster. Because this 03 file that I generated, which contains information about the Soundstrip API, also contains a lot of examples, right? And so these examples hopefully will also be updated to be better and we'll see. And so now you can see the pitch is marked as no longer accessible in Python API, and that's quite useful. I'm going to leave it in just because I want to experiment with it, but normally I would remove keywords that it doesn't even need to know about. Here it might be useful because it's so easy to hallucinate the pitch because it has been in the training corpus for so long, to explicitly state, don't remove it. Like sometimes negatives are useful because they will explicitly allow it to say like, nope, not this attribute that I really, really want to put in there. Because their like tendency is to hallucinate, not like be conservative, right? Like Gemini is a little bit different here, but and it would be like, oh, it's not mentioned explicitly, so maybe I won't use it. But like most models are going to be like, well, it looks like we have pan, and maybe someone didn't put pitch, but I know that pitch exists. I'm going to put it in. So here I'm leaving the negative in on purpose. And so now that I have this file, you can see there's really nice examples here, like loading a new file, sound file into Blender's data. And those are much more primitives, right? Like they're not necessarily things we want to use because we want to use the video sequencer API, but in case we do need to have the low-level stuff, we see here this and use speed factor instead. That's nice. That's probably coming from the source code. And then we have all these flags, we have all of these things which are really kind of useful and nice to do. And we have these like higher level descriptions of source code, which will allow models to match that much more strongly, right? Like if I say in my chat, oh, like edit the property pitch, it will be able to find and latch like the embedding similarity, if you can use that as a proxy for modifying an existing sounds strips property versus my prompting of add pitch to the sound strip is going to be much higher than say to the similarity between, gosh, my words are missing, to things like enumerate DNA object properties, right? And you're like, yeah, it will still match pretty strongly, and like obviously the context around it will match, and so bigger models will be able to do this, but this a much smaller model is going to be able to match that pattern. So that's why it's nice. And then it will just like copy paste this and adapt it, right? So it's like a nice kind of thing to do. Here we're now going to, how far are we in our context window? We're at 40,000 tokens, so this is starting to get critical for Claude Sonnet. What we're going to do now is based on this update our chapter 2, which was broken to be correct. And it has the name chapter 2 already because I pasted this log with the file name, right? So those are all the things that I kind of have in mind as I do this prompting, is like, well, does it know this file name? Does it know what I'm referencing to? Does it have the context to fix it? And those are things that you get better at, because obviously no compiler is going to say, you're like, oh, I'm missing this include, I'm missing this other thing, I'm missing this API, I'm missing this description of, right? You can think of the titles here as API functions, maybe is a good way to explain that, right? Like this is kind of an include. I'm going to include this file, and it has API definitions, and then it has the source code. And then it has like the low-level assembly, which is going to be the actual source code. And so this is kind of like both an API reference thing, but also like kind of a compiler script that tells me how to do some template replacement and all of these things. So you can think of this step as like including source code, using source code, and then compiling it down to assembly, which is here, this thing. And the thing is that here I already see, this is something that I read this morning, is to use strips instead of sequences, right? Update the documentation to mention that strips is the new preferred keyword instead of sequences. So that's something I read this morning. That's why it's useful to actually read this documentation and kind of get a, just like some more context around all of this. And no, I think strips is the new way, right? Like that's kind of what I read this morning. Maybe I'm wrong. Yeah, it says like sequence strips are now represented by BPY types strip, not the older sequence class. So I wonder if this is true. Maybe it's indeed the other way around, right? So BPY types string versus BPY types sequence, and it's actually strip. And then this, and I wonder if Blender helps, if Blender will distract here. So strip, sequence strip in the sequence editor, it doesn't tell us anything about deprecation or not. And this is the version for 4.4, so I think this is the correct way of doing it. Man, Gemini likes to push back. That's perfectly fine. It's like, dude, like I don't like what you're telling me. Oh, it's looking into the source code. That's funny. The primary defined property to access the list of sequences. Yeah, but strips is an alias. Currently, the strips is officially marked as deprecated. Okay. Okay. No, okay. So update with sequences then. So this is weird. Like, why does it tell me sequences? So it's a BPY context sequences. And so does it mention it as strips? Strips. It doesn't say that it's deprecated. So that's kind of like annoying. It doesn't say, it doesn't generate like the fact that it's deprecated in here, but that would be interesting to look at, right? Like it's, I'll reapply the changes and then it says in RNA sequencer.c, is that where it found it? Here's what the source code says. The strips alias. No, so that's not linking it to the right thing. Where did I see the file name for that? Let's check the Blender 4.1 API for BPY sequences, sequence editor sequences. And so it's RNA sequencer.c, which doesn't exist. So I'm like kind of worried that this is still like hallucinated. Strips search data. So it should be maybe RNA sequencer.h. RNA sequencer API. Yeah, I don't trust it. I do trust the finding more. Strip. I'm not sure about all of this. So here I really wonder what this could all be. Sequencer strips, enum property, scene stamp strip meta, sequencer strips, sequencer sequences. Do we have that? Use metadata from the strips in the sequencer. Sequencer strips, recalc. So does it say anything about deprecated? RNA material, no tree, object, scene API. RNA sequencer. Oh, look at that. Property UI replaced by dot strips. Yeah. So I'm right. I'm right. Uh, you are so annoying. Like, C RNA sequencer.cc. So this is a hunch of mine that I have this was hallucinated, and I think this is just like knowledge. No, so Tabasco it says it checked the 4.1 API. It didn't. One thing is it didn't. It hallucinated this. I don't think this is a. It said like searching the file XYZ. I don't think Gemini can do tool calls inline its thinking thing. So I think it hallucinated that. And then 4.1 is the API that it was trained on. And so I think it hallucinated the whole thing. The file name was wrong, right? Like it said RNA sequencer.c, but actually it's RNA sequencer.cc. So you have to be aware of that. And especially thinking models are prone to hallucinating things. So maybe that wasn't like the best choice. And I forgot to put it back actually. You only want to use the thinking part when it's really grounded in like a file and a log file, because if you let it run on its own, it will start making stuff up even early in the context window. And here it like, I had a hunch that this was what going on, right? And so now that I showed it this thing, it will like probably start like shutting up about it, right? So it's going to be here. They are referencing and stating that strips is the new way. This confirms that for sequence editor object in Python, sequences is deprecated and replaced by strips and strips all. The documentation was last updated to use sequences. So I'm going to say like, please update the documentation again. And now check chapter 2. So Claude 3.7 has a thinking mode. So you can enable it or not enable it. And I mean, we could try. I didn't want to do too much model testing and like diverging today. If I were on my own and really interested in it, I would probably try out 3.7 not thinking versus 3.7 thinking. I feel I'm starting to have a good sense of these models as they're now. So I don't know. I mean, this was kind of a rabbit hole, but also I think it's good to have it on stream to show when these models go wrong is when you can actually learn about them. And hopefully no big model will make it out soon. I know that there's Gemini 2.5 Pro has a new version. So, you know, maybe that would have been relevant here. This stuff is really important for agents, right? Like, because agents won't be able to catch the stuff that I did if they're not really, really careful about it. And if it's not like encoded in their agent loop or agent prompt. And they don't do like often runs about all of this. So I hope that agent builders are aware that these bigger models that do thinking are not always the bigger models that do better thinking. Because A, they don't do thinking, they just generate more tokens that is nice to, that have been trained on reinforcement learning. So are like kind of like aligned with how to do things step by step and in multiple like hops. But also they are more brittle than I think the stuff that's like purely trained on predicting the next token. So, because you can get far with like hallucinated stuff, right? And so that's why I think this intermediate chain is a little bit more brittle. I mean, at the end of the day, I have no idea, but that's like kind of my mental model for it. So now that we have updated this script, we'll see how it runs, right? So we have chapter 2, Blender book PY. We have our Blender still running. Going to clean the console down here, and then I'm going to rerun it, and it like still, did I even update it? Does it still have pitch? Yeah, why does it like not have this? So let me, I will apply these changes to blah, blah, blah. Now checked, oh, I used the wrong name. Okay, so it didn't change anything here. The relevant parts of the script, I used the wrong file name, so my bad. Chapter 2, Blender book PY, and then it says like longer context will be sent in full, which might use extra requests. I'm gonna Oh, this is always thinking. Man, I don't know. Also, I didn't try O3. O3 is one of the models that I need to spend more time on. And O3 can do a shit ton of tool calls, which would have maybe saved us some time. So maybe I'll do a git commit and then I'll unwind the whole chain and we'll just have O3 do one pass and we'll see what comes out. That is actually something I'm interested in. So here it's removing the sound strip, the reference to the pitch attribute, and instead I should do like the speed factor, but like too bad it didn't do it. So now if we run this one, it's actually going to run in full, and then we'll have the same kind of bug with file path, right? So we can either repeat all of that. Is this the one where I was like cross-checking? What does DNA deprecated do? In file, blah, 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 blah. So yeah, this is going to be interesting. Let me do a git commit. Since we are already getting to here, let me add the... Oh, I have a lot of uncommitted shit. Interesting. And I'm going to add ttemp. Add Blender experiments. And I'm going to add the other experiments. All right, I think we should be good and set over here. Where is this scripts at though? Yeah, it is in Blender scripts. All right. So the one thing I'm curious about is, so if I go all the way back, find in the same and search further in the code base. And here we're going to switch to O3, which is going to cost us 30 cents. But that's fine because the tool calls are probably free. And so here it'd be great to have not just the image strip error, but also the sound strip error, right? And so we'll go back into our clipboard and kind of look for this one. I think this is the one. It seems that chapter 2 is not using the right APIs, which might be deprecated. So I'm kind of helping it along already a little bit. The problem with O3 is that you can't really see what it's doing. Yeah, DeepSeek R1 often spits out Chinese in its syncing traces, right? And then switches back to English or so. I think, again, that's like a property of it being having reinforcement learning with potentially some data set that is in Chinese much more strongly. But then when you go back to the main mode, it switches back to English because it does next token prediction. I don't know too much about the whole reinforcement learning training and stuff like that. So the problem here with this, it's is that it doesn't say anything about its thinking, so it really doesn't teach me anything about the code base. And then sometimes it will just like look a little bit, but you can see it does all these tool calls. Those don't cost me anything. So that's in a way, this 30 cents, these 30 cents are cheaper than if I were to use Gemini, because all these tool calls are like kind of included. And that's something I recently found out. The one reason why I'm annoyed by O3 is like you basically wait 4 minutes and then it's like working or not. It's often working, and it found some really subtle bugs that I had, like concurrency bugs and like just things I didn't know about the ordering of DOM events and stuff like that. So it is quite valuable, but then I don't learn anything about this, right? I just see it doing things, and then I can maybe infer what it does. I can ask it to write up these things, but then you often get flagged by the API as well when you just like try to expose the thinking process. So kind of annoying. I'll definitely sign up for the API though, even though you have to do all this like biometry nonsense, because it's such a amazing model. It's just such a interesting piece of technology. See, because yeah, this is amazing, right? Like this is the kind of stuff that really is probably grounded in it, and it probably connected many different sources of knowledge to do this. And like it immediately runs into token limits, which is fun too. But so we'll see. All right. Let me know if it mismatches, and then I'm going to say update 03. And here, however, I'm going to switch back to how many tokens are we in? 35,000, right? Like, so it's not all that much. And then here I'm just going to switch to Sonnet and then just tell it to please update that. And I wonder what's going to be in the context window that it now sends to Sonnet. Like there's not much from 03. So is this enough to really update it? I think it's enough with a few lines. I wonder if the tool calls are in there. Probably are. This is all really interesting. And man, we have a technique at work to deal with this kind of stuff that I can't talk about just yet, but man, it's just like so nice. And I wonder why people don't do it to manipulate the context. It's very weird. Like there's so much that people already cargo cult instead of thinking about the bigger picture. There's so much you can do with context manipulation and these kinds of work, and just a lot of stuff that you can do that's like pretty amazing. All right, so now that I've fixed it, so see that was 03, and like basically in one shot it was able to get it, but we didn't learn anything about the code base. Like we learned a lot from previously, but I didn't look into the documentation. I just have to, like, if I had done this from scratch, I would just be like, okay, well, I guess it's true. But now I already, right, like, I don't know how long we've been following along, but we've been dealing much more with all the code base. And then since we're going to be dealing with Python and Blender for a while, this wasn't wasted time. It was mildly fun, right? It was definitely more fun than doing it by hand. But it was friction. It caused us to look into C code by hand. It caused us to like grep around because it wasn't able to find it. It caused us to think quite a bit about the hallucinations and why these hallucinations might have happened. And I mean, there's a potential that if you're less experienced in terms of spotting hallucinations and understanding how models might behave or not, that you just like completely went down rabbit holes and still gain a little bit more knowledge, but maybe just like spend a lot of time on frustrating stuff. And I'm at this point, I'm like not frustrated. I kind of expect these things. And because I'm expecting them and realizing, oh, this is the same as like doing a unit test run and then an error comes back, or it's the same as doing a compiler run and a compiler error comes back, it feels like engineering again, right? It doesn't feel like throwing dice and then being like, yeah, it worked. No, it didn't work. Yes, it worked. No, it didn't work. Here it feels like, okay, well, step by step, I'm making progress, right? Like I'm cleaning up my include file. I'm cleaning up this. I'm adding better comments. It's like, it seems to be making progress. Now I'm at like the next attribute. And it gives me this like sense of purpose and knowing what my day will look like. I will have a sense of, oh, this is going to be more complex than say ingesting a TypeScript API where there's like 15,000 blog posts written about it. I know starting this Blender thing that like, yeah, there's a good chance that I will spend like 2-3 days just like polishing my documents before I can one-shot my applications, right? Like I know already now I'm just at chapter 2 of my book and I already ran into like some kind of issues. And we're just at like adding strips to the sequencer, right? And actually, does it do that even? So if we switch to, I didn't even check if it actually did the right stuff. If we switch to the video editing code base, like we can see we have the strips now, right? which is really cool already, to be honest, right? It's like we have the audio, we have this, we don't have an image strip, it seems like. And then we can ask it to like rename the channels. Like there's all kinds of stuff we can do that I would write down as ideas, right? And then I'm making slow progress just because I'm on stream. But I know that it'd probably be, even if I work by myself, it'll be like a couple of sessions before I can really get into the nitty gritty, because what I want to do now is like things like detect silence. Like, how am I going to do that? Detect silence in Blender? That's probably going to be not an API that's exposed as like dot silences, right? So figuring that out is probably going to be way more interesting. And will probably take me time, right? Because I can't just like import Python libraries either, or if I do, that's going to be troublesome. And there's just a sense of the complexity of a task, despite having LLMs, that was missing for me even just a couple of weeks ago, where it just felt like I don't know what the day's going to be like. Am I going to be struggling with getting my task done? But now I know my task is actually creating these documents to fill out my to complete my task, right? So I don't know if that all makes sense. So now what we're going to do is we're also going to ask it to update the in case it's needed, or at least mention some of these deprecated as warnings. So I'm going to update the book as well. I don't know what thinking's turned on. Oh, I guess it doesn't show you the brain here. I was looking for the brain. Key issues identified. Image strip no longer has a direct file path. Pitch property was removed. And then I don't know if there's going to be more attributes that were removed. I at least know a little bit more of where to look, and that's maybe the knowledge that is useful for me as a programmer. So I do feel like I'm making progress in my understanding of the problem at hand as well, just by getting a better sense of the Blender code base, right? Like I already know kind of the files that exist and their file endings, and so that will help me be better at spotting hallucinations later on again. And just knowing how to, it's like learning the API of a code base without learning the actual APIs. Like you learn where to look for the API, which resembles your traditional understanding of engineering as well. Man, it's rough today. I'm like struggling. My brain is struggling. I mean, I guess it's been the weekend. It's been a long week. I guess I won't be generating shorts just yet. The vibe coding of doing something in two minutes, it will happen. Like, I'm sure I'll get there where I will have a collection of files and I'll just point at them and say like, yeah, make me a caption plugin. Because what you shouldn't forget is that in the same time, we've actually started working on these kinds of UIs here, right? And I can have the pseudocode already to make kind of like this Python UI. But if we now, like this is probably hallucinated, this is not grounded in anything. But what I can do is either take a screenshot or maybe already take the Python code that might or might not be dangerous. Have it correct this Python code. I could potentially load a very short reference in here. I could do all kinds of things, right? But also the interesting thing that I can do in this window here is like make a add-on panel that allows me to quickly AI generate YouTube shorts based on a transcript, a video, B-roll footage, and some animated Blender scenes for titles sequences and video effects, right? Because this is ultimately where I want to go, and I have no idea what such a UI should look like. Which means I don't really know what kind of APIs I should build. I do have some sense, right? But also I want to be surprised because people have already kind of been thinking about it, and also maybe just the probabilistic approach of it will generate an idea where I'm like, that's pretty cool. I didn't think of having a slider for like craziness. And so those things are pretty nice that I'm doing while it's doing all of these documents over there, right? And because this is a different model, it's going to do these kind of weird, like the punctuation's a little bit different because certain models prefer to use like em dashes versus backticks or like whatever. So you end up often with things like these. And here it's a little bit hard to spot what is actual information that has changed, right? Because it's just a really long line. It hasn't been like wrapped. But for example, here, this is where it has changed, right? It's like it actually changed one name of a property. Wait, what did it do that? Did I just hallucinate that? Oh, here we go. So I'm not sure if this is true, right? And also it's just formatting again. So who knows if this was so useful, and usually you should use the same model to write this stuff. So this was generated by Deep Research and now I used Sonnet. So actually I could show what happens if I use say 4.1. And hopefully this will lead to less like syntax differences. So here's an idea for like a panel, right? You can upload the transcript, analyze for key moments, great. Upload the main video, extract speaker faces, cool. Select B-roll library. Actually, even allows me to upload it. Auto-categorize B-roll, pretty cool. Blender templates, I don't know what that is, and then generate this, and you have like a generation queue, that's great. But what I can do is I can just go back here and then say like, oh yeah, like do it again. And just get like a different idea of what it could do. And so here, hopefully, we'll see much less editing of existing stuff. Gemini has a tendency to want to rewrite like backticks and stuff, which is annoying because it often like does it wrong. Or it will do like 25 edits about syntax, and then the linter kicks in and says like, nope, not like that. And then Gemini does it again. And then you wasted 20,000 tokens. What's the apply model doing? Is it just because the file's so big? So here, this UI is going to be strongly influenced by the first UI we generated at the top, right? And if I were to prompt it on its own, which we can also do here, Claude AI again, we can have it here, make a Blender add-on panel, just a panel, potentially some sub-panels, modals. I can just have like a bunch of those computing different ideas, and then I store the screenshots of what I like. And that is like full vibes, right? Like while this other thing is doing complicated stuff that requires my brain, I can always like kind of what do you call it? Cleanse it with some fun. So quick generate, pretty nice idea to have like a quick shortcut stuff at the top. You can add animated elements, so that's really cool. You have like AI settings, sure, like that's pretty cool too. Content analysis, hook detected, did you know? Yeah, this is great. I love it. This is a pretty great UI, right? And so that I don't forget it, right? It's I'm going to take a screenshot of the YouTube Shorts generation. And sadly, I can't. I'm going to do YouTube Shorts generation. So I'm going to store those. I have a folder with like ideas, right? In Blender. So it's weird that it's Python script, Blender script, and it's like cross-linked. So here is, I'm actually going to make a folder in Blender. Oh, I have an ideas folder. New folder, ideas. Going to make a date folder. And then I have a screenshot, right? So I'm going to screenshot this and I'm going to save it under code, corporate headquarters, GoGo Labs, Blender, no, Python, Blender ideas. And then the file name is going to be 01 add-on YouTube shorts.png. And I have the generation queue. I really like that too. So I'm going to save it here as well. It's going to be 02. No, it's going to be 01A add-on YouTube shorts.png. And I'm going to store the link in ideas. So new file 01 idea.md. Paste the link, maybe paste the source code. Copy. And in the meantime, I can go look at this stuff here. Oh, I did it in Python, even though I said it in HTML. Oh, I didn't say HTML. So if I go back to this prompt at the top. Oh, I'm not in VI, sorry. Just the add-on UI. And there we go. So that's a good way to vibe while you're frustrated or while you're just doing like hard work. And I guess it did. So maybe it's the apply model trying to change oh, you know what? It's the deep research document uses many like Unicode characters that are fancy that then it just like wants to replace. So it was the edit model. That's cool. All right, so where were we? We are going to go back to chapter 2, and then maybe after that, we'll just call it a day. If this runs successfully, we'll be successful. And it runs successfully. It added all the frames, so now we should have images as well. Do we have images? We don't have an image strip, huh? So I'm going to remove all the strips, and we're going to run it again, and we're going to see what happens. Where's my editor? There it is. And nice. So now we have the sound here. We have this. We have that. So what about the image strips? That I'm curious about. So it says add extracted frames. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to uncomment the adding the movie strips and all of that. And I'm going to delete all of this, and I'm going to rerun it. Oh, and there are the images. So why didn't I see those before? Because they were masked, maybe? So that's cool. Now it's like stop motion. All right, well, we have a starting point, and so I can undo this, and maybe now I can prompt things to add channel names accordingly, and I'm going to just link this like Blender Video API for Dummies book, and we'll see what happens, and then I'm gonna call it a stream. What is this doing in the meantime? YouTube Shorts, idea generator, you have a timeline, media assets. This one's fucking boring. It has AI settings down here. Creativity level, right? Like, so those are still like interesting things. Content style, educational. Those are still interesting things, but that's not like the most fun part. Make it funky, young, entertaining for AI coding videos. So you can experiment with those, and like those little words, they're going to generate whimsical UIs, but in a way that's kind of what I wanted to do. And so here now we can, it's interesting, add chapter to do this, add it to, yeah, we want, yes, add it. Oh, and naming conventions is a good thing to put into a prompt as well. All right, well, this was a pretty fun session, definitely making progress. It's like very systematic what I'm doing right now. And I'm kind of happy about it because it will just be like a really nice file. And I still don't know what to do with all these files. Like, do I publish them as a blog post? Do I just, at the moment, I just leave them in my repos, which at least means that it's like a little bit published. It's a little bit versioned. So we'll see. So let me run this again. Let me delete all of that. Let me run the script, and then we'll see if it was able to rename the channels. It wasn't, which is fun. And why is it not adding the images? Oh, it's updating the document here. It's like update the script, chapter 2 Blender book as well. That's why. So it's adding the movie strips to the current channel, and then here, the image sequencing current channel at this point. I wonder why it's not able to do it. So that's maybe something else that we should fix. Images channel 4. So let's see. I'm going to delete all of this. We're going to run it again. And so now it didn't add any images, right? So it seems like the images are now missing, which is weird, right? Oh, because there's an error. So this is interesting. And now that we have O3, we might maybe be able to do a little bit more. This property doesn't exist. And then here we do have debugging Blender, blah, blah, blah. So I don't remember. So we have the error here, update 01 Blender and 02 Blender internals to fix this issue. And this is 2 big books, so maybe I should remove this. We're going to switch to O3. Maybe we should use O3 mini high. I think I don't have access to that. Maybe we should use O4 mini. Investigate through sequence time channel, RNA sequencer, and co. But we said O3 was able to do tool calls, so maybe we should first call it like that. Investigate and fix the script. And let's see what O3 is just going to run for a while, but I think this is important to fix in this session as soon as I catch it to make sure that we have some good stuff. So this is the new YouTube Shorts generator. No, this is the one that we had before. This is the new one that it generated here. Make it funky, creates this stuff, which obviously doesn't make sense in the Blender API stuff. But you can have, yeah, this is really nice. I like the presets idea. I don't know if the preset changes stuff. But you can go to generate. AI ready to generate magic, generate YouTube Shorts. It has like a little progress thing. This is all pretty amazing. Auto detect good moments, all sounds. I really like this one. So we're going to add this as well. No, this is not the keyboard shortcut I wanted. So save 02 add-on funky YouTube AI Shorts PNG. Then we're going to switch tabs. I'm going to take this and zero to A. I'm going to take the first tab with the quick start templates. And here we go. V. And we're going to save this link. And where is it? over here, ideas, new file, 02 add-on funky.md, put the link, put the source code. And like, are these lines of codes that I generated, or are they not? It's so hard for me to tell what this does. I'm going to generate one more because I know the O3 is going to be thinking for so fucking long. I don't know. I hope it's not stuck on the web search because I've seen that happen before. And if it's stuck, I kind of want to let it error out because then I get my credit restocked. We'll see. It's just a lot of vibe waiting, right? Vibe waiting. So, oh, why did it generate the Python here? Just the HTML. So generated a Python, which we could have put in there, but I don't have like a good document for building add-ons. So why spend time on it? This is still searching the web, huh? And we're going to stop it. And then we're going to restart. The other solution I could do here, what I've been doing more and more, is just like zip the code base and upload it to ChatGPT, because then it's shorter. It's like cheaper for me, and it has like a bunch more tools available, and then just do it there. Right now, I don't really have. That's maybe something I'll spend some time on next time, is like making a zip of the Blender code base and making a script to quickly zip my own code base and then upload them. And then O3 on the web is going to unzip. It's going to write some Python to unzip the zip and get a sense of the code base through the file names. And then I can also paste a couple of more higher overview files, right? And then maybe that's what I'm going to generate now. Using O3 actually is I'm going to do, write a index document to know where to look for video editing things in the code base of Blender. I fixed a crash by accessing a non-existing channel attribute on sequence what changed. The print out of exposes only name, lock, and mute, alt for blah, blah, blah. So you can run the script again. Now I'm going to switch to a model that's, say, 3.7 Sonnet without the thinking attribute to update the documentation. So say update 0.1 and 0.2 to make sure they are up to date to avoid this issue in the future. So this is our new one. Topic, split settings, 30 seconds, split. AI effects and scenes. Add scene, doesn't work. Edit doesn't work. Energy level. This is not really that interesting, this one, huh? And then the third one here. Script transcript. Duration. Add the roles. Create title sequence. Modern intro, fire text, smooth transition, customize template, generation settings. This is all kind of the same stuff, and I already linked the HTML, so the link to this, so I'll go back to these things. This AI suggestions is kind of nice. I like that. So maybe I'll screenshot that one as well. So this is going to be 01 idea2.png. And all right, so set access, we updated the script. So what we're going to do now is just we're going to rerun this and make sure that our script works. And then hopefully it works, because I do need to go. All right, let's rerun this. And it added it, and it added it to kind of the channels that matched audio. It doesn't really fit the names here, so I'll figure that out in the next session. So in order to do that, I'm going to create a next to do file into the Blender scripts directory. New file to do.md. Fix channel names in chapter 2 blender book.py. Continue updating the video sequencer editor chapter. To make sure it's precise and correct in its API. Alrighty. Oh my god, it's like deleting a lot of stuff, isn't it? Oh, it was just like a single pass, so it just changes this. What does change here? Oh, is this just the apply model doing its craziness? Because this looks like exactly the same stuff. Yeah, it's the diff struggling. At least it's not hanging in the scroll anymore. All right, while we're waiting. So another thing that I like doing is just going to O3 and doing a research on potential UX ideas. Oh, we built an add-on development guide. I forgot that we had this going. So let me add this. Let me add this to the documentation here. New file 04 blender add-on guide.md. And we're going to add this to the to-do is look at the add-on ideas and the add-on blender book. So, but this is for future, right? All right, so my documentation is up to date and it mostly seems to work. Jesus, what is all of this change? Is it just indentation? Why is this smaller? All right, whatever. All right, that was it for today. I'm not going to save this. I think this was pretty slow going, but also pretty instructive. And also I was expecting pain and friction. And I love having those on stream because that's my opportunity to give like good tips and insights into models. So Sparkles update chapter 2 script, which seems to be mostly working. And we have a bunch of UI prototypes, right? Is there anything like more interesting here? Yeah, I do like this as well. So maybe I'm going to save this as well because this has like interesting tabs here. So let's save this. This is going to be 01 idea 3. And second one, 01C idea, no, 01 idea 3A. And what about the other one here? Optimizing split auto preset role. Quick edit. Ooh, I like this edit screen here. So this is going to be 02C add-on funky and add music caption transitions. Yeah, I like that. All right. That was it. I hope you had fun. 3 hours of stream. No viewers, just Tabasco Eye. Thanks for dropping in case you're still here. And see you next time.